LSU wide receiver Kayshon Boutte went full Leo DiCaprio and said, "I'm not leaving," via his Twitter. There is a lot to unpack with this one, as Brian Kelly, going from year 1 to year 2, will now get his alpha dog back at wide receiver. The first thing that I'm looking at when we're talking about this whole conversation with Kayshon Boutte coming back and why it's a bit surprising, he would likely have been one of the first, if not the first, wide receiver taken in the upcoming draft. I guess Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably another conversation piece involved in that whole thing. But bottom line, Kayshon Boutte was going to make a lot of money should he have chosen to go to the NFL draft. On top of that, the quarterback situation next year at LSU, at least publicly, is somewhat uncertain. Jayden Daniels, you don't know exactly what he's going to do, if he's going to go to the NFL draft. Garrett Nussmeier would be a good option. Don't know if he's going to play next year in terms of being your starting guy if Jayden Daniels comes back. Like, you see what I'm saying here? There's layers to this. And for Kayshon Boutte to say, "I'm not worried about that, I'm coming back," is really impressive to me. Had 48 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 538 yards last season at LSU. Those are good numbers, but I think everybody knows that he could be even more involved next season if they were to kind of click a little bit earlier. Because towards the end of the year, you saw him get a little bit more touches and get more involved. But at the beginning of the year, he didn't look super engaged. Whether that's true or not, that's how it looked from the outside looking in. And the team took a second to really find their rhythm. And on paper, they're kind of a balanced attack offensively, but the bread and butter was the short passing game and running the football. Like, that's who LSU was, which doesn't cater quite as much to who Kayshon Boutte is as a player. He's a guy that can stretch the field vertically. Yes, he can take those intermediate passes and take them the distance like he did in the SEC title game, but Kayshon Boutte is a playmaker, and he didn't, like I said, really get fully utilized this past year. So to say, you know what, I'm coming back, let's do this again next year, is really impressive to me and speaks volumes to, I think, Kayshon Boutte's competitive spirit. We'll jump more into that in just a second. Really quickly, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, you haven't yet joined the party, we would love to have you here. A ton of you LSU Tiger faithful have joined the program over the past few weeks, upwards of 2,000, I would venture to say. We're glad to have you here. If you haven't yet joined the party, no time like the present, go ahead, subscribe, lock in with us. Portal season, I'm coming back season, recruiting season, bowl game season. We got a lot to talk about. We want you at the party. Also, follow me on the social channels at JD Pakel on Twitter and on Instagram. So this says a couple things to me about Kayshon Boutte and about LSU as a program. I want to start with Kayshon Boutte. Remember the conversation that was being had after the Florida State game? Kayshon Boutte scrubs his socials, and everybody and their mother starts to murmur, "Oh man, is there trouble in Baton Rouge? Is the Brian Kelly experiment already off on the wrong foot? Is Kayshon Boutte going to hit the portal, this week?" Like, there was so much uncertainty and so much conversation around what he might do, about, him potentially leaving. And now to fast forward the tape and say, okay, you know what? Actually, he's coming back for not just, he's not only not transferring, he's coming back for a whole other season at LSU, foregoing millions of dollars to go play in the NFL. Says a lot about Kayshon Boutte and his competitive spirit, because one of the things that he cited in his declaration on his social media was, "I want to come back to achieve the standard that is set at LSU to win a national title." I just want to be very clear. Kayshon Boutte doesn't owe LSU anything. Zilch, nada. There's nothing that Kayshon Boutte needs to still put forth at LSU as a player. They brought in a new staff, which needed to be brought in, and he could have very easily cut ties and said, "I'm an NFL player, I'm going to make millions of dollars." He doesn't need to come back to try and bring a title back to Baton Rouge. But the fact that he wants to, the fact that's important to him, I think just says so much about his love for this game, his love for LSU. And that's a high character move, in my opinion. I love the fact that he's saying those millions of dollars can wait. I understand it's a risk, but it's important to me to accomplish, or at least have a chance to accomplish next year, what me and my brother set out to do when we got to LSU. Shows loyalty, and again, shows competitive spirit, love for the game. Like, this fires me up, man. This absolutely fires me up. Talking about LSU as a program, to have your alpha dog, one of the leaders, one of the most visible players in that program wearing number 7, to come back and follow Brian Kelly in the second year, I think says a lot. Because one, that's a big domino to fall. That's your alpha dog coming back. So people are going to follow him. This is not the first player from LSU that's going to say, you know what, I think I do want to come back for another year. I think I do want to see what we can do in the second year under Brian Kelly. So that's impressive. Second thing, the culture. To say, Brian Kelly's way isn't the easy way of doing things. There's a lot demanded of you within that program at LSU with Brian Kelly at the helm. There's a lot asked of you. It's not the easy way. And to have the culture to where he understands that he wants to come back to better himself and to help this team get to where he believes they can get, the Brian Kelly process is further along than a lot of people expected it would be this time last year when he got hired. You thought you'd take your growing pains. You thought you'd take your lumps. You thought you might lose a couple of guys along the way. Looking like Kayshon Boutte might be one of them after game one, and that has not been the case. In fact, you've had guys like Kayshon Boutte and others in this program actually lean in even more when things got hot, when they turned up the heat, when you got adversity, when you lose Tennessee. That's when they started to respond. And so the program, the culture, the process, it's all well ahead of schedule in Baton Rouge. And Kayshon Boutte saying, you know what, run that back, Turbo, is a huge indicator and a huge temperature check of good things to come in the near future. This has been The Hard Count. I'm J.D. Piquel, Nick Brake, doing the heavy lifting. This is your show. It's college football, year-round. Doesn't matter if they're playing games. We're still going to be here, okay? Because we understand this is a 12-month sport, and we want to make sure that you're locked and loaded for all of it. And quite frankly, we just love it with every fiber of our being, so we're going to cover it because we want to and we can and we get to, all right? So we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.